Hello everybody, Rob here from California Hike and Bike. I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I'm going to show you how I used a fuse tap and a hardwire kit for my dash cam and how I routed it through this eyesight here, up and through the headliner, down the panel, and into the fuse box, which is underneath the dash on the driver's side right here. So stick around, this might help. For this job, you're going to need a 10mm socket, a Phillips head screwdriver, some sort of pry tool, whether it's a metal one like you see here or a plastic one, which is probably preferred, at least one set of needle nose pliers, a pair of wire cutters, a pair of electrical strippers, some electrical tape, zip ties, a fuse puller, and last but not least, an electrical tester like the one you see here. Or you can use a multi-tester, a multimeter if you have one. You will also need an ATM-LP mini fuse tap like the one you see here, and an assortment of ATM-LP mini fuses. So we want to determine which fuse slot we're going to hardwire this dash cam to. So in order to do that, first thing you're going to want to do is remove the fuse panel cover. This is right to the left of the steering wheel and down below. To do that, you're just going to pull it forward and then push it down just a little bit and twist, and it will pop right off. This bottom right-hand slot, as you can see by the diagonal across the slot, was an open slot. Because I want to use this dash cam only when I'm driving, only when the motor starts, not when it's parked, I'm going to use a slot that only comes on once I start the motor. So I tested that. If you're actually putting this into a 2022 Subaru Forester, this is a limited edition, then you should be able to do the exact same thing. But if you're doing a hardwire to a dash cam to a different Subaru, you may have a different fuse panel, so I'm going to show you how to determine which one to use. I'll do that in just a sec. The next thing you want to do is remove this cover right here. I'm going to use this pry tool. I've got a metal one. You can use a plastic one if you want. You want to be really careful with this. And I started down below just because it's out of view, and I was really careful. All I did was I pried it in there and popped it off like so. And you can see how that started it. And then once I did that, I just worked my way up. There's actually two snaps in here that hold this on. Once you get it started, you can pull this away from the dash and then just pull it out. And that's as easy as it is. You can see there that there's two at the top and one snap. I'm sorry, two at the top, one on the side, and one snap on there. On the bottom. Once you've done that, you're going to give yourself access to your fuse panel as you route your wire. You can see the wire that I've already done coming through here. So this is the panel. You can see the empty slot there on the bottom right. I wanted to determine if that's a power on all the time. So I want to determine if it's hot all the time or if it just becomes hot as I turn the motor on. So I'm going to use the alligator clip to the power tester that I have. You can also use a multimeter. I'm just going to use a power tester. So you can see that right now there is no power when I test this. So I'm going to start the motor and try it again. Okay, we've got the motor running, and now we're going to try this. And there you go. I've got a light on the right hand side. Now, the important thing about this is when you decide which one you're going to utilize, you want to test both sides to see which side is the load. Left side is nothing, right side is my load. So on the right is my load. When you use your tap, you want to make sure that you put the load side of your tap on the load side of the fuse. The load side is the opposite side that the wire is entering your tap. So for mine, I just want to put it in exactly like that. I don't know if you can see that. So I'm going to go ahead and install it and show you one more time. So once again, I tested this. On the right hand side is my load, and on my tap the load is on the opposite side of the wire, so I want that opposite side to be on the right side of my fuse as I install it. Very important before you start pulling panels and actually start running the electrical to the fuse panel. Now that you've got it tested and you know where you're going to put your fuse tap, what you're going to want to do is use a 10mm wrench or socket. I used a socket, and remove the negative terminal or the negative cable from your battery terminal and place it over to the side. Make sure that it's at a spot where it's not going to whip back and make contact there. So you want to keep that away. Very important before you start removing panels, especially that one near the airbag, because you don't want to jiggle the airbag, or I'm just a proponent of safety, and that's definitely something that you do not want to mess with. Okay, I've already started to route this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and show you exactly what I did. The first thing that I did was I popped this console off, and basically the way that you do that is you're going to take this first little black piece, and it looks like this, and it's very simple. Just take a plastic pry tool and pry it off right here, just very carefully, and it pops off. Once you've got that popped off, there's going to be a screw right in that recess and a screw right in that recess, just a Phillips head screwdriver. Remove that, and then with your fingers, and I'm doing this with I'm holding the camera and attempting to do it, so this is why I went back to show you. But basically, after you got those screws off, you just wedge your fingers in there and pop it off, and it's very simple to do. You'll see that in addition to the two screws that you have there, you're going to have two little hooks that hook onto the molding under the headliner, which is, hopefully you can see that right about there. Once you've got that center console here removed from the headliner, then you go right here. There's two pieces here that route the wires, that cover the wire route. So basically what you do is you slide the top piece down and then just snap it off. Okay? And be real careful with that. You don't have to put a lot of pressure on it. Once you do that, you can just push this to one side, and one of the tabs will come out, and then all you got to do is route the wire underneath that. Once you do that, it's actually pretty simple. So what I did was I took my wire and I just pushed it under the headliner here until it was under this piece to get past the eyesight. I don't want to mess with the eyesight and try to remove that to get to get the wire routed. But it was very simple to push it past this area to the open spot here, and then continue to knead it under. And then once I got it over to here, I pushed my fingers in to push it up and over the headliner there. Then I'm just going to continue to do that all the way down here to the rocker panel. And what I'm going to end up doing is removing this. Now this is a side airbag, so make sure that you disconnect your battery, of course. And once you've disconnected your battery, you can start working on all of this. This portion here only took me about 3 minutes. It was very simple to do. So I'm going to turn the camera off. All I'm going to do is put my fingers here and start to work this off. There's some snaps in here, and there's 2 prongs that go down, and I will show you that after I remove it. So as I started to remove this, all I want to do is show you what I did. I wedged my fingers in here between the molding and this rocker panel cover. I guess it's called a rocker panel, but side panel, whatever you want to call it. And you can see as I start to remove it, there's the airbag that you want to be careful with. So make sure, it's imperative that you disconnect your battery before you start messing around in here. The reason I'm taking this off rather than just pushing the wire in there is because I want to make sure that I don't interfere with the airbag as I route this wire down through this panel. Once you've got it loose, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but let's see if I can get in there. Okay, so there's a tab on these straps, and basically all you got to do is turn them so that they'll fit through the hole, and that way you can remove this panel and get it out of your way while you're working on this. I'm going to put the phone down so I can get this one off, and we'll go from there. So this is the panel removed. You can see that there's 2 snaps and there's 2 straps. And then there's also 2 prongs that fit down inside the top of the dash there. There's 2 areas to route those prongs. So when you pull it off, you're going to unsnap it at the top first, bring it down just a little bit, remove those straps, and like I said, all you got to do is turn it so that it'll fit through the opening there. Once you remove the straps, you just pull it up and out like so. From here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to route the wire down along this harness that's already in place. You can see it here. The airbag's here, it's going to expand this way. The airbag's here, it's going to expand this way if it were to go off. I don't want to be anywhere in this area here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to route it along the wiring harness, down and through, and then along the molding here, and then into the fuse box area. Now, it's very simple to just push the zip tie against the panel underneath the harness there, and it will route itself. Once you've done that, just zip tie the hardwire cable for your dash cam to the existing harness. I'm going to route it For me, I like to route it on the inside. It's still going to be on the between the wire harness and the clip for the panel, and also the straps. So between the wire harness and those areas, that way it keeps it from popping out from around the panel as you're driving around, and it also keeps it from getting anywhere near the airbag deployment. Once you snip this off, you can actually, you don't want to go real tight. I like to have a little bit of play in there, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. You don't have to have it really tight against the harness. So as the car moves, there's going to be a little bit of play, but it will still keep it secure and away from the airbag and away from the edge of the panel here once you replace the panel. After I clip this, I'm going to rotate so that the lock for the zip tie is on the inside, away from everything. For my particular wiring harness for my Garmin, there are these components that are in line on the Hardwire harness. The cool thing about this particular install is right in here, there's plenty of space for me to put this inside there and still route the harness to the fuse panel. Once you've got the length of this panel routed and secured by zip ties, what you're going to want to do now is route it the rest of the way down along the molding and then through this panel right here and into the fuse box. That's actually very simple. If you just put your fingers on the outside of the molding will actually pop right off. You don't have to do a lot of it. Just do the section that is from right below this panel so that you can go through with the wire up to where it is. So I'm going to go ahead and route that, replace the molding. Okay, so rather than route it through one of these holes in the panel, I realized that behind this panel there's actually an area to come. Let's see if I can show you. There's actually an area behind the panel to come around the panel and back into the fuse box area. So that's going to make it actually a cleaner install. So at this point, I've got it routed down alongside where the molding is going to fit. And now I'm just going to replace the molding to make that a tight and clean fit. For the negative lead, there was a screw that went through, it's a self-threading metal screw that went through here. What I decided to do was replace that with a bolt and a lock washer with a nut so that I could, on the inside, I'm going to just use a circle connector for the negative lead. So I'm going to attach that to the nut and bolt that I put through there. It was a little bit small for the bolt that I'm going to use, so I actually drilled it out just a little bit to make it fit. Okay, here's the moment of truth. I'm sure that everything's going to work fine because I checked it prior to actually running the route. But here goes. I'm going to start the motor and the dash cam should fire up. And there we go. And we are good to go. As you can see, this is a very easy and clean install. Most of you watching this are probably not subscribed to my channel, and it would really help me out if you appreciated this video. If it helped you in any way, please just hit that subscribe button and the like button. That will really help me out. I'm very close to my first 500 subscribers. So please help me hit that 500 and good luck with your install.